Friday night. We have a bit of an audience, as you can tell, and therefore it should make the show even livelier than usual. I thought we would begin with something rather unique. Two Big Lies by Joe Biden. Does a day go by when he doesn't lie? Gosh almighty. So the first one is, of course, the perennial lie that we have been hearing since the first moment I brought out the criminality of Joe Biden, because I was the first to pierce the, I think, well-known secret about Joe. I can't imagine that before I revealed it, people in Washington didn't know what a damn crook he was. But in late January, early February of 2019, I revealed for the first time the Ukrainian bribe. And that was Zlochevsky, the one that we now have seen described by many, many different people, by Shokin, the prosecutor, by Lutsenko, the second prosecutor, recently in the FBI 1023 with the confidential, very reliable informant reporting bribe giver, Zlochevsky, saying that he paid $5 million to Hunter and $5 million to then Vice President Joe Biden. You recently absorbed all that. Well, that was first revealed by me in late January and early February 2019. If you want to find it, you'll have to go back to Sean Hannity shows then. I don't remember if I first revealed it on the Sean Hannity show or I first revealed it to John Solomon for his columns in The Hill. Largely because John had been working on a similar lead that he had gotten, that Biden was a big crook and was basically raping Ukraine for money through his son. But I was visited by two people, a former colleague of mine and also a person who was a very reliable long-term government asset, who told me the details, very similar, a few little differences, very similar to the story that we now have, that Joe, having been named the point man for the Ukraine by Barack Obama, whose duties entailed giving Ukraine money because they were broke, having overthrown the government. They had $800,000 in the bank, so we had to fund them so they'd survive. Joe was put in charge of that. He was also put in charge of helping them fight off Russia, and he was put in charge of getting control of corruption in Ukraine. Of course, as was always the case with Joe, he failed in all three miserably. As Secretary of Defense Gates said numerous times, including in his book, Joe Biden has never made a correct decision about foreign policy his entire life. That was his co-cabinet member in the Obama cabinet. That's a hell of a thing for a co-cabinet member to say. He has never in his entire life made a correct decision about foreign policy. There could be a lot of reasons for that. One is that he was well known as the dumbest man in the United States Senate, the dumbest man in his law school class. He was left back in the third grade. I mean, we don't have much of an intellect going for us there. And second, he's kind of a clown, so he makes stupid decisions that are usually made by other people. I could go over all the foreign policy decisions that he made that were absurd, but here Obama puts him in charge of Ukraine as the point man, and He's supposed to get money to them. He uses that to shake them down. Number two, and to make money for himself. Number two, he's supposed to help them defeat Russia. Of course, Russia takes everything it wants, and he never persuades Obama to give them a single weapon. As Poroshenko told me, and Poroshenko is one of his best friends, they expected me to fight Russia with a pea shooter. It was only until Trump came in that they were given arms to fight off Russia. And finally, his efforts to reduce corruption in Ukraine were, of course, ironic because he increased it. So that's typical Joe. Given a mission for the U.S., he fails. But the Biden family makes millions. America gets screwed. The Biden family gets rich. We could repeat that story in China, Russia, Romania. We won't right now. We will at some other time. So remember, he constantly maintains that he never ever discussed his son's foreign business with him over 30 years. I don't know how many times Joe Biden said that. 10, 20, 30. It almost had a memorized formula to it. So, Ted, could we play one or two versions of Joe Biden saying he never discussed the foreign business or foreign clients of his son, his brother, or anyone else, incredible though it may seem?
Absolutely, Mayor. We're going to play this first one from the debate.
It's not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about? China. I have not had the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Look, there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan.
Well, I mean, that's one. Do we have another one?
We do. Let's play the other one.
I mean, I just want to give him a flavor.
Never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings?
Yes, I stand by that statement.
Well, now you're just going to have to take my word for the fact that he repeats that about 20 times in a 7 or 8 year period. I don't know anything about the foreign. I never discussed the foreign dealings of my son or my family because he doesn't want to create a conflict. Now, of course, from the very beginning, that occurred to me to be a miserable lie. And you would say, well, it's a miserable lie because he must have talked to his son on the 19-hour trip to China when the son went there and came back with a commitment for $1.5 billion from the Bank of China into his ridiculously stupid private equity fund, the partners of which were Hunter Biden, Devin Archer, soon to go to jail, the stepson of John Kerry, and catch this one, the nephew of Whitey Bulger, one of the major organized criminals in the United States. Bet you didn't know that, because the corrupt media, including some conservative media, keep that from you. I've never even heard that on Fox. James Bulger was his partner for 5 years, and they made millions together. James Bulger is the nephew of a guy who at one time was the most wanted man in the United States. What's he doing as the partner of the son of the vice president and the stepson of the Secretary of State? You know what he's doing. He's doing dishonest things. What does the Bulger family do? What else do they do? And what do the Bidens sell? Bullshit. That's what they sell, right? Biden is a degenerate drug addict. Mykola Zlochevsky is a very wealthy Ukrainian oligarch who's pro-Russian, who has built a business dishonestly by awarding himself oil and gas properties while he was a minister of government, and amassed a fortune of $40 billion. He didn't do it by giving millions to drug addicts, did he? So the whole story is only accepted because our country is corrupt. No, our country is corrupt. It's not just Biden who's corrupt. Our country is corrupt because we accepted that story. From the day it was announced in early 2019, the story was absurd on its face. Completely absurd. That Mykola Zlochevsky would pay Hunter Biden, in essence, his business, $2 million a year. For what? Well, there's only one thing they had to sell: Joe Biden's position as point man in Ukraine. And they needed Joe Biden because Zlochevsky's company was being investigated by the Ukrainian police and by the Ukrainian prosecutor, and they wanted to seize the company. Now they say, well, the prosecutor was corrupt. First of all, there's a conversation between Joe Biden and Poroshenko, the president of Ukraine, that happens to be tape recorded, in which the president of the Ukraine explains to Joe that the prosecutor, is not corrupt, but they're going to make up that story. So that was just one big lie that every part of the American press just bought without checking into the fact or even asking the question, what was he ever charged with? Nothing. Is there anything in the file to suggest that he's corrupt? No. And even if he was corrupt, well, so was everybody else in Ukraine. What does that have to matter? He was going after the company. Maybe he was going after the company so that the president of the Ukraine, Joe's friend, could shake it down. Actually, that's why he was doing it. Poroshenko was not going after the company for the greater glory of Ukraine. He was going after the company because everything that was available while Poroshenko was president of Ukraine, he stole. I mean, he would come to your house and steal. The guy had a voracious appetite for theft because he wanted to be the richest oligarch in Ukraine. That's why he got thrown out of office, 70-30 to a ridiculous actor who knew nothing about government. So Joe gets hired by Zlochevsky to save his company because, in essence, think about it, Joe is more powerful than the president of Ukraine. Ukraine can't exist without Joe Biden giving them money. And when it comes time to exercise that power, when the prosecutor in Ukraine arrests the company, Joe comes right in, pressures, and he explains it on a tape. And he tells the president of the Ukraine, you get rid of that prosecutor or you're not getting your $1 billion loan guarantee. That's straight out bribery, offering something of value in exchange for official action. Something of value, the $1 billion, official action, getting rid of the prosecutor. It happens. The case gets dismissed. The case goes away. Now, the question is, how much money does Joe get? $10 million plus $2 million a year for about 4 years, plus whatever is in the offshore bank account. There's a woman who was the accountant for Burisma, who was the wife of one of the former owners, who was willing to testify as to the offshore bank accounts. She had the numbers. She had the people in charge of it. She offered the FBI that testimony in exchange for being put in the witness protection program. The FBI never, ever questioned her. Just like you've been hearing, never questioned her. Impossible in a law enforcement situation that you wouldn't question someone who's willing to give you offshore bank accounts. And by the way, she couldn't have fooled them. If she were lying, well, there would be no offshore bank accounts. They had nothing to lose. They had nothing to lose in interviewing her, except they would have to have arrested the former vice president of the United States if she would tell them the truth, right? And the FBI and the IRS would do anything to save Joe Biden. And they have done anything and everything to save Joe Biden. They have completely corrupted our law enforcement. They've completely corrupted America, which is the way we are looked at throughout the world. So now we have a second one. This is even more important. Our biggest adversary in the world is China. I want you to envision during the Cold War, if John Kennedy or Ronald Reagan had been paid $31 million by Russia. I don't care how popular they were. They'd have gone to jail, right? Do you have any doubt about that? Or Lyndon Johnson, or Richard Nixon, or Dwight Eisenhower? Suppose Franklin Roosevelt got $31 million from Nazi Germany. Off to jail, maybe even executed, I don't know. Joe Biden family got $31 million from China. Now, Joe, of course, lies about this. He lied about it during the debate with Donald Trump. He's lied about it for years. Shall we play a little again of?
Yeah, put those headphones on.
Maybe they should do like a best-selling album called "The Best Lies of Joe Biden." Probably be 4 or 5 discs.
So let's go back and remind folks, the mayor, of course, filling in some more of the details. Let's go back to the debate. Was this the second debate? We'll play this clip and the mayor will give us more right after it.
It's not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about? China. I have not had, the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Look,
Very quick.
there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what this he's accusing me of is a Russian plan.
So Biden says that he made no money from China. His son made no money from China. The only guy who made money from China is this guy, meaning Trump, for which there's no evidence that Trump made any money from China. And that this is all supported by 51 former intelligence agents who I would rather prefer to describe as prostitutes, except not as high class as prostitutes. And they are the people who have misled Bush, Obama, Biden, and to some extent, President Trump. Because our intelligence over the last 20 to 25 years has been terrible, right? Well, these are the people who ran it. And they're a bunch of crooks, a bunch of liars. And they signed a letter saying that the hard drive had all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. They had heard about the hard drive one day before. They had never seen it. They had never asked about it. They had never requested an interview. They never asked the FBI about it. You know, if they asked the FBI would have told them it was valid. FBI validated in December of 2018. And of course, the FBI did nothing to stop it. I mean, can you imagine that? The director of the FBI sat there when these 51 clowns wrote a letter saying this had the earmarks of Russian disinformation. The FBI knew that was untrue. It had validated it in December of just testified to it in December of 2018, and then once again in October of 2020. And the FBI felt there was no obligation to tell the American people they were being lied to by 51 prostitutes. who held some of the highest positions in the American government and are adored by the American press, except they're a bunch of stinking liars. And it's tragic because it affected that election. 20% of the people that voted for Biden said if they knew that, they wouldn't have voted for him. They would have voted for Trump. So we don't even have to get to stealing votes. If you want to talk about fraud, there's your fraud right there. So Biden goes on to say that he and his family got no money from China, that his son got no money from China. We have him saying that too, Ted?
We do. Let's play the clip.
Go ahead.
Never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings?
Yes, I
with him?
stand by that statement.
Okay. So Joe says he's never spoken to his son and knows nothing about his overseas business. Have we played the text message in which
The voicemail.
Joe,
Let's do it.
in which Joe indicates that he read the New York Times article that outlined all of Hunter's business in China, which means he's completely lying when he said he didn't know about it because he indicates that he read about it.
Listen very closely to this voice.
By the way, this is how you prove his guilt in a court of law. This is the
Hey, pals, Dad, it's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, give me a call. Nothing urgent. Just want to talk to you. I thought the article, at least, has been online. It's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times. It's good. I think it's clear. And anyway, if you get a chance, give me a call. I love you.
Now, another piece of that is he vociferously denies that they ever got any money from China, that Hunter was never paid money from China. Remember, China is the country with which he had the contract 10% for the big guy. So that's a pretty big lie. But Hunter blew that out of the water the other day because Hunter started to plead guilty before the judge cut it off. Plea of guilty is done under oath, by the way. So let's go to Joe saying that they did no business with China.
Never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business
Yes,
dealings
I
with him?
stand by that statement.
This here is called a transcript. This is a transcript of the attempted guilty plea that the judge blew up because it's corrupt as hell, right? The judge wouldn't take it because they basically, for two misdemeanor pleas where he wouldn't go to jail, they let him off the hook for about $50 million worth of bribery. I mean, this is absurd. This is a travesty of justice. Judge said, "The hell with you. We're not taking this plea." But he began trying to enter the plea. Here's just a little excerpt in which he admits under oath that he got money from China, did business with China, and that his father is a stinking liar. Court. All right. Fourth paragraph says, during the calendar year 2017, you earned a substantial income, including just under $1 million from a company you formed with the CEO of a Chinese business conglomerate. Is that the same or a different Chinese company from the one you referenced earlier? Hunter: I started a company called Hudson West, Your Honor, and my partner was associated with a Chinese energy company called CEFC. The court: who was your partner? The defendant: I don't know how to spell his name. Yi Jinming is the chairman of that company. Hunter, in the hard drive, goes on to describe Yi Jinming as the wealthiest man in China, as one of the highest ranking officials of the Red Chinese party and an expert in turning people against their country. And that's how he rose in the apparatus of the Red Chinese Party. That was his partner. Not only was it his partner, this guy was also Joe's partner. This is the guy who was a partner in the business in which Joe got 10% for the big guy. And not only that, when they opened the office, Hunter asked for a key for his father and a key for his stepmother. And Joe and Jill had the first two offices in a joint office between our former vice president, our future president, and one of the highest ranking spies in the Red Chinese government, Yi Jinping. Yi Jinping is now missing. The best guess is he's somewhere at the bottom of the Yangtze River because the Chinese don't want him to talk about this. The defendant goes on to say, yes, Your Honor, I believe that's what it refers to. The court, $664,000 from a Chinese infrastructure investment company. Is that one of the companies we've already talked about? I believe so. Yes, Your Honor. Which one is that? The witness, I believe CEFC. The court, okay, $500,000 also in director's fees from the Ukrainian energy company. That's the one that you already told me about. Yes, Your Honor. Burisma. And then $48,000 from the law firm. Yes, Your Honor. And he didn't get money from China? The president of the United States is a lying son of a, and I can't repeat the rest of it. He should be out of that office tonight. We should never have a man in that office who's a career criminal. This man has been doing this since he was 29 years old. He and his slimy little brother were trailer trash, taking peanuts and shaking people down when he was a baby. He grew up on graft. He grew up on bribes. And that's what he lived on all his life. That's how he has 3 mansions. That's how he lives like a king. By selling his office. He doesn't just sell his office to anybody. He sells it to our worst enemy. You want me to list all the favors he's done for China and endangered your national security? I'll give you the biggest one. He's in office about 3 months and he gives up the Bagram Air Base. The Bagram Air Base was 400 miles from the Chinese border. It was one of the most advanced air bases we had. Trump had just invested enormous billions of dollars in modernizing it. 400 miles from China, you know how fast it could hit China if it had to? It would have been too fast for China to even react. Very, very frightening for the Chinese. Is that one of the things they got for the $31 billion? Remove the airbase? Or could it be, don't look into COVID? Or maybe don't do anything about fentanyl so we can continue to make $1 billion a year on fentanyl while we kill 100,000 of you. Just think of how terrific this is for China. China's at war against us and we're not at war against them. China has in the last 2 years and during the Biden administration tripled the number of people it kills with fentanyl as compared to when Trump was president. That's about 100,000 a year. We don't usually lose that many in a war. Except China is killing us like it's a war, except they're not losing anybody because we're not shooting back. And not only that, it's not losing any money in this war. Wars cost you money, deteriorate your economy. Just the opposite. They're making a fortune by being at war with us. Trump had reduced fentanyl by 70%. I know it because my son worked on it. We had finally gotten it under control when this miserable criminal came in and opened up our border. just opened up our border. Not only do we not stop people from coming in, you heard the people we had on last week. We helped them come in. He's fighting with Governor Abbott because Governor Abbott put an obstruction in the river to stop people from coming in. Joe wants the obstruction removed so more illegals can come in. None of them are vetted. We have no idea who the hell they are. They could be coming straight out of prisons. We know a lot of MS-13 people come in. We know a lot of fentanyl people come in, record numbers. That one of the deliverables for the 31 million that China gave them? And we're sitting there doing nothing about it? There isn't a single Democrat that has the guts to walk into the Oval Office and say, Joe, it's about time you leave. You've done enough to hurt our country. You've killed enough people. You're disgracing us. I mean, Barry Goldwater had the guts to do that with Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon didn't do anything like this. Richard Nixon was involved in a stupid burglary. He didn't kill anybody. Do you really think that any of those people in Ukraine would be dead if Trump were president? I want you to consider the fact that Putin invaded 3 times in the last 22 years. First time Bush was president. Second time Obama was president. Third time Biden's president. Which one is missing? When didn't he invade? Which one's missing? Yeah. 4 years of no invasion. And I got to prove to you that he wouldn't have invaded under Trump? Bush? Obama? Biden? Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians dead? None under Trump. What a tragedy.
Just a total tragedy. And Mayor, I mean, you've been doing this a long time now. Do you think we can get to a point where even your rank and file dyed-in-the-wool Democrats are going to turn on this man? I mean, I'm not talking about the leadership, the rank and file members of the political class of the Democrat Party. I'm talking the voters. I'm talking, the working man in Saginaw, Michigan tonight.
Well, I'm going to ask you what you think, because I'm not a prophet. I don't know.
I think something I've learned, Mayor, the last 3 years with COVID and some of these other things, and with how President Trump's been treated by the media, unfortunately it works on a sizable chunk of the population, right? The fake news, the censorship, what the legacy media outlets push. I'd like to think we're all seeing through it. I'm just not sure. After seeing how absurd and just seeing what we've gone through the last few years and the power of I guess we call the legacy media and the political class in Washington and their allies, whether it's in Silicon Valley, even among the finance world, academia. I'm just not sure. So I'd like to think so, but I just don't know, Mayor.
I think what has to be overcome is, no matter how bad Biden is, no matter how much of it they're willing to accept, Trump is worse in their view. Now, you can't get them to articulate why Trump is worse. Like, who did Trump kill? I can tell you who Biden killed. Biden killed the people in Ukraine by his ineptitude, by his cowardice, by his foreign policy, by the fact that he wouldn't frighten anybody.
How about those U.S. Marines at the air base?
He killed people in Afghanistan. Think of the following decision that Trump never would have made. I'm not sure any intelligent person would have made this decision. When he withdrew from Afghanistan, which he blames on Trump, here's the reason it was a disaster. He took the troops out before the civilians. Now, what kind of a moron takes out the troops before the civilians in a country surrounded by 4 major terrorist groups? Generally, Joe, you leave the troops and you take the civilians out first so the troops can protect the civilians. Get it, moron? You got him killed. And you got a big ass slicker like Mealy there with you who does anything you want. What? Because the medals go so far down, they reach his ankles. I mean, he must be one hell of a hero because he's got more damn medals than anybody I ever saw. He also said he was willing to call up China and warn them if Trump were to attack him. I don't know. It seems to me that's what Benedict Arnold was prepared to do. But in any event, we got this guy as our head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's going now, but he did a great job of making our military woke.
Well, that's important.
He sat by while the Chinese Navy became bigger than ours. I don't know if he's got anybody prepared to fight. They're willing to fight diversity, and they're willing to fight for equity, and they're willing to fight for critical race theory. I wonder if they're willing to fight for America.
Mayor, do you think the Chinese military is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion programming?
They're being trained on how to kill us and the Taiwanese. They put up nice pictures of the Taiwanese and they kill them. That's what they're being trained to do. They're being trained to destroy Taiwan in any way they can, and America.
You don't think we can't outwoke them to victory? Is that not possible, Mayor? Is that we're talking 4 or 5D chess
I wish
here?
it were funny. I wish it were funny. Well, next week we're going to be treated to another indictment. So this week we got a maintenance man indicted. The maintenance man at Mar-a-Lago was indicted.
He was in charge of the annual pool draining, and they want to indict the guy.
Well, I mean, God, if I was like the guy who did the lawn, I'd be scared out of my mind. If I were the guy who did the lawn at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh yeah, you're cutting the
How
grass.
about the guy who cleans the toilet?
You're
bowls? He may be going. He may go next. Or
on a serious note,
these guys are poor middle class people. What this creep Smith did is bankrupt them. Now, this guy Smith doesn't belong with legitimate people. Smith is the guy whose case got reversed in the Supreme Court for unfairly prosecuting a United States
governor, Virginia McDonald,
and it was overturned because of his unethical behavior. It was overturned because he held back exculpatory evidence. I've never heard of the Supreme Court reversing a case for that reason. I've never heard of a case of that magnitude of unethical behavior that the Supreme Court reverses a criminal conviction based on the behavior of the prosecutor. That's the prosecutor that Garland selects. And it wasn't the first time, by the way. He's got a history of it. He's got a history of unethical prosecutions. So they pick him to be the hatchet man. And he goes and he makes up crimes. And he goes after even the guy Nout's his valet. He's indicted a maintenance man and a valet. Must make him feel really powerful going after a maintenance man and a valet. I mean, I indicted about 5,000 people. I don't remember doing a maintenance man and a valet.
Is this part of an effort? Are they also trying to send a signal to other members of the staff?
Of course it is.
Other folks around the president?
That's all they do is send signals. Of course it is. Absolutely, 100%.
Well, Mayor, we're cruising right along, of course, in what we like to call the fastest hour on the internet, America's Mayor Live, on what's been, I mean, I feel like we're saying this almost every week. It's been a busy news week.
This next election is of crucial importance. And I have only one concern about the next election. At this point, I mean, it could always change. When I look at the polls, I see who's going to win, except for election integrity. So I have a guest here. Steve?
Glad to meet you, man.
Before we do anything else, Ted, come a little closer. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. Could we mug him and get his shirt?
Oh, yeah, don't give the plan away yet, Mayor.
Steve, just go outside. There are 4 or 5 muggers outside. There are 4 or 5 muggers outside at any time in New York. At any given time, I could go downstairs and pick up about 4 or 5 muggers. And they come up here and grab that shirt from me.
Give us the website, Steve. I want to put the Steve up on the website too here. What's the website?
So the website is www.theflagshirt.com. 69 years in business. And
Look at this.
Theflagshirt.com.
So
Love it. Love it.
what happened was
Look
I
at the
was,
Constitution.
that's
The American
Constitution.
Flagshirt.com or the flag shirt.
Just
Wow.
theflagshirt.com.
Okay.
Very easy. So we started a little bit before 9/11. And what happened was we started calling people and thanking them for their order. Well, they would say, well, nobody ever does that. I said, well, that's why I'm still in business. And then we found out that a lot of these people were Republicans
How
because
long have you been in business, by the way?
69 years. I'm going to be celebrating my 70th year in January. And when I get on Bannon,
You're not that old.
he embarrasses me all the time saying I'm 82 years old.
Are you?
So I'm 82 years old.
Get out of here.
82.
Yeah, but that olive oil, right, keeps you young, right?
No, I got a great wife. She keeps me young with good cooking.
Is your cooking that good? Is your cooking that good?
Cooking is that good. That's why I'm thin.
She's being modest. She's just like going like this. Cooking's that good, huh?
It's terrific.
Wow.
So what happened was a couple of days before the election, I saw President Trump, and we were talking about who was going to get elected, how they're going to get elected.
What about 2020 now?
Yeah, well, this was 2020. And he actually endorsed one of my candidates, Major Malloy, which was unbelievable because I'm just an average guy that's working out here and started 20 years ago.
You're not just an average guy with these shirts. Boy.
Yeah.
You're
Let's
Yeah,
start-
come on.
I started about 20 years ago with the Broward Republican Executive Committee. When I first got in, it took me 3 months before they answered a call. And I said, wait a minute, here I want to volunteer. And then I'd call me back. Then I finally got an application. It took them 3 months to let me know that I was finally accepted. That's 6 months. Here's a guy that wants to help. And I said, wait a minute, something's wrong. So I sat down. Not a person came up to me. Didn't say hello, didn't do anything. So finally I went to the president. I took over and I said, look, I want to be the person getting people involved. We had 120 people. I said, wait a minute, this is Broward County. We got a ton of Republicans. And I got 400 people involved. And after 10 years, we were doing a terrific job in Broward. And as you know, Florida became Republican.
And Broward used to be a solidly Democrat county, didn't it?
It still is.
But it
And
voted
it's
for
the
Trump.
only county in,
But it voted for Trump
that is true. And the reason is because,
and DeSantis.
correct. And the reason is because we had a great executive committee. Now, throughout Florida, just in the recent elections, we dumped a lot of the rhinos and a lot of establishment people. And about 3 years ago, I saw a guy named Dan Schultz who wrote the book on why people should get involved in the executive committee. It's called www.precinctstrategy.com.
Yeah.
So a lot of people ask me, well, what's precinctstrategy.com and how to get involved? So precinctstrategy.com is the Republican Party. There's 400,000 slots. When Dan and I started working together, he's a West Point graduate. We had 180,000 people involved. Can you imagine that? We got 60 million Republican voters. We had 180,000 people involved. I said, that's impossible, insane. So we started working together and we got up to about 230,000 people involved. And I started getting on program after program, asking people to get involved. And I would put up my name, my information, as you can see here, 954-318-6902, S Stern 1054 AOL, if you want to get involved. And I got on, called Lindell and said to him, do you know anything about precinct strategy? And he said, no, I don't. And he said, wait a second, let me get somebody on, one of my girls. And we spent about an hour on the phone. Now, being on the phone with Lindell, as you know, for an hour is unbelievable. And he said to me, I want you and Schultz on the program the next day. Well, we got on the program the next day and he endorsed precinct strategy. And he says, I'm going to get President Trump to endorse it. So it took about 6 months. Liz Harrington, myself, Bannon, Schultz, we finally got him to endorse precinct strategy. And I met him in February, a year ago, at one of the events in Broward. And he said to me in a conference, if I'd have known about precinct strategy prior to this, I would have won the election. I said to him, I said, look, when you do your rallies, we got to get people involved. I said, you got to tell people. So back in November, when I went up there and my wife was with me, he said after about 30 minutes, I will talk about it at one of my rallies. And so far he hasn't, but Lindell and many of the other people have talked about it because, you know, if President Trump talks about it at a rally, he's going to get 50,000
We'll get him to do
people,
it.
maybe 10,000 people involved. If I talk about it in every show, we're going to get hundreds involved. Now I put my name and number up. I get tons of calls and I'm known for calling everybody back. So we've got a ton of people to get involved. And about a year and a half ago, Bannon says to me, can you get a success story team together for me to have on the program? So we started getting people all around the country to let them know what's actually happening in their state. So we got a girl on in Elizabeth Nader, and I've been very friendly with her. She's in New Jersey. Now you would think New Jersey, we know, is solidly blue. She got together with a radio guy and they started a club called Common Sense Club with 10 people. How many do you think they got now? 110,000 people. So if we can do this in New Jersey, we can do this everywhere. So I call people in every state.
It's called Precinct.
Precinctstrategy.com. So what is our precinct strategy? We get people involved. You know, who's going to vote for the local people? The whole idea with precinct, this is ground up. You can't go, go top down. So what happens? You get to vote. You get to go out and talk to people. Now, how do you think Florida went from 110,000 down in Democrats to 500,000 plus Republicans? That's because every precinct all over Florida got their people together, started signing up people, starting getting people involved. And all of a sudden they said, hey, this is good not only for me, but for business. You know, I sell shirts, sure. So I go to my meetings and I wear my shirt and I see 50, 60 people wearing the shirts. So it's good for business as well as getting people involved. So we have
After all, we're not communists, as they say in The Godfather.
So we have stars in Broward County. And what we do is we tell people around the country and we get people involved. We get together with Palm Beach. You know, we're here right in Palm Beach. And, you know, we've worked closely with the president and you see all the rallies. So we started this all over the country. I'm involved now in California with 10,000 people. We're getting people involved because we want to make California red. August the 1st, I go on TV. Let's get California red because it is red. They just don't know about it. August the 1st, couple of days.
And what's that? Go on TV with what?
Well, just saying, let's get California red because we have a lot of people in California that are working hard, but the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So we're going to have a Zoom meeting sometime in the middle of August. I've contacted 340 people in California, leaders, and we're going to talk to each other and tell everybody what to do. Now, then we leave and we go, let them take over and we go to another state. And we've been doing this in a lot of states. A lot of people are getting involved. And, you know, I'm a one-man show. Dan Schultz is a one-man show, but it's multiplying because we're getting people involved because they realize how bad the country is. You just went on, told them how bad. I mean, they're realizing it.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to exaggerate how bad it is right now and how much we have to take the country back from where we've fallen.
Well, as you know, I'm 82. My dad told me about the Depression. And a lot of these young kids who are going to school now who are getting brainwashed in school have no idea what a depression is and what could happen to a country. And I just heard on TV, as you did, where a lot of these countries are going to default on their debt. And as they start to default on the debt, the country could go into a depression, a recession. It could just mushroom. It only takes one to do that. So we've got to elect officers all around the country. And also one of the great things we did, we have a Zoom meeting on precinct strategy. And again, when I saw President Trump, I decided to have an election integrity Zoom meeting.
Now you're having that on the 31st.
Yes, we've had about 20 of them. And we had 800 people on the last one. You know, to get 800 people on a Zoom meeting is unbelievable. It's probably the biggest Zoom meeting.
No kidding.
We've had Cleta Mitchell on there. We've had Jovan does a half-an-hour
You
training.
got all my friends there.
We got
Jovan was a witness for me.
Linda Payne. We got Michelle Swinich.
If Jovan had gotten his hands on those Atlanta ballots, the whole thing would be over.
Well, Jovan produced and came in to help me on our Flag Day event. Now, this was one of the greatest events. And, you know, my son came to me one time. He says, Dad, we got to do a Flag Day event. Not only is it going to help our shirts, but it's going to help the country.
We should have known him. We were all dressed up for Flag Day.
Well,
we literally got American flag shirts, but now we have
you should see what
this
we did
version
for
here.
4th of July. We radio studio, we had American flags and the Constitution.
But we had 46 speakers on this, starting with General Flynn. And I worked with General Flynn here at the Clay Clark event and sat down with him for 45 minutes. He had got me a lot of generals. We got General Arbuckle on there. We got 4 generals that came on this.
And what did you cover?
So we covered precinct strategy. He said the only way to win the country is precinct strategy.
Yeah, of
so
course.
if he believes in that, everybody should believe in that. And what's happening is I met Trump Jr. in the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago at one of the
Donald
events.
or Eric?
John Jr. No, Donald.
No.
And I said, you know what precinct strategy was? He said, no. I said, well, your dad endorsed it. I said, let's talk about it and we're going to get together because a lot lot don't really.
I'm sure he liked it.
Yeah, but
Don's
they
a
don't know
very
what it's about.
Practical guy.
You know what I'm saying?
So,
We got to
so
get
now,
this out there.
let's tell people about this meeting on Monday. It's on Monday at 3:30 p.m.
3:30 Eastern time, because a lot of people call me. And the funny part about it is they say, is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? I said, it's the 31st. So people have to understand. And what's going to happen is
It's about an hour to 2 hour meeting.
yeah, it's between
An
Joe
hour
Biden.
and a half.
Before we go into details, how can our viewers be a part of this? Can they? Is it too late for Monday's
It's
call?
not too late. We'll send them the link. Again, I'm
I'm
going to
gonna-
put my name and number up if you can see
So
it.
if I put your email on the screen, is that the best way?
Best way to do it is email
Okay.
me and I
Yeah,
will
no,
send
keep
you
it
a
there
link.
a little longer, just a little longer.
And I have it up on the screen. And so as they continue to talk about this, please, if you want to get involved, we have such a great audience, very
This would
active.
be a really good thing.
Email Steve.
to get involved in particular. You know, a lot of people call me and they ask me, what can I do? How can you tell me how bad it is. I agree with you. You don't have to convince me how bad it is. I know. And then they tell me even something I don't know that's terrible. They say, well, what can I do about it? What can I do about it? I said, well, you got to do it at the grassroots level. That's the way a singular person can change it. And this is a wonderful way to gear them to be active. But we need these people.
Well, Michelle is working on with Lindell on the machines. And one of the most important things is the voter rolls. So we have a girl in Connecticut, Linda Sinkowitz, who just came out. She came to my office a couple of times. She's getting people off the voter rolls. She got 15,000 people off the voter rolls. But one of the most important things is to get them off permanently. And she will give you on this Zoom meeting the way to do it, along with a girl from New York, Audit New York. We got Audit Pennsylvania. We got Linda from California.
Pennsylvania. We
We
better
got
order
Jovan
Pennsylvania.
from Florida. We got a guy coming in from Wisconsin. So we have about 5 speakers along with Jovan. Jovan does a half-an-hour training, and we're working closely with him because he's going to give everybody the success of how to get people off the voter rolls. Because 9 states have never taken anybody off the voter
Yeah,
rolls.
I know that. They
So-
have people that have been dead 100 years.
Nevada, the worst. I know one of our
You know,
guys spent $2
Are
million.
you, one thing though, are you good at like campaigning for the votes of dead people?
So, one of the
I
most
always thought that's one of the things about our party that just is not. They're much better at spiritual campaigning with dead people. Even Republicans who die vote Democrat.
It's amazing. I mean, you take California alone, we have people that get 6 ballots that are Democrats and actually admitted that they got 6 ballots and your name was on the ballot. So, we have a lot of work to do. And, I'm not the expert in this. All I do is get the people together that
Well,
are experts so that they can let everybody know.
We're going to report on Monday night about the success of this. And then we're going to have you back on for your next one.
Well, how about
so
if you
that
come
we-
on and listen to what's going on?
I will.
So
I
you
will.
got
Try.
it.
I'm on the air between 3 and 4 on WABC radio. So I'll come on right after 4.
You got it.
Okay.
We'll tune in, and I don't know if you record these sessions, Steve, but Zoom has that option as well. But if not, we'll tune in shortly at 4 if
So
you're
let's-
on there still.
You can we record it, and you can also go to www.savemyfreedom.us, savemyfreedom.us,
All right.
and you can get that on there also. So we have it covered every way. We don't want you to miss it. We have back ones. If you want to listen to some of the back ones, we'll give you those too.
Well,
So we don't give
congratulations.
up. We work round the clock. People call me all the time. We tell them how to get involved in that, how to get involved in election integrity. We have hundreds of thousands working. Cleta Mitchell's probably has 10, 15,000
Clear's
working.
a dynamite.
I mean, we have some dynamite people
She's
that
a
never get
dynamite.
on TV, that work 12 hours a day, and I stand
for
for
you.
them. One of the things whenever I get on with Bannon, the first thing I say is, thank you, all the people that are working. And where are you lazy people that aren't working?
So we're going to get them out.
All
Well,
right.
we wanna
Let's run an ad.
We
We want to thank you, Steve. We're going to report on this on Monday night, and we're going to have you back next week to tell us what happened.
I
Okay.
always end up with action, action, action.
All right.
Hey, thank you, Steve. So we're going to take a quick commercial break.
And
Come
then
back.
Dr. Maria.
And come back with Dr. Maria.
The year is 2022. Cancel culture is the new normal. Online freedom as we know it has ended. Digital stockades are here. All activity is monitored, stored, and predictively analyzed by a technological cartel. We're being converted into a digital resource, a digital currency to be farmed for metadata and loaded into a computerized combine, blockchained to a social engineering operating system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Be part of a new technological revolution. Right now, 1,000 test pilots have launched themselves into a new digital frontier, a private network outside big tech control. New technology with state-of-the-art digital engagement and never-done-before security and privacy features that are now operational. With Quick's digital engagement, entertainment, communication, and commercial exchange will never be the same. We are QUX. Quicks. Advanced pre-release sales are limited to 3,000. Order now by visiting quicks.tv. Get yours now before they sell out. Be part of a brand new online experience that you control.
Well, there's Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live. That was a terrific presentation by Steve, and we're sure going to follow up on that. He's the answer to a lot of the questions you've been asking about what we can do. I have Dr. Maria with me because we this whole gender what do you call it? Dysmorphia. Please pronounce it correctly, doctor, because I'll get it all wrong.
Gender dysmorphia. But before we get into gender dysmorphia, which I know you've heard me talk about on Uncovering the Truth every Sunday, WABCradio.com at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, I'd like to talk about the commercial you just saw. QUX is the most ingenious thing I've seen in a long time. Now, this couple who invented it want to maintain privacy. So right now, through your TV, your iPhone, you're not secure. A lot of your privacy is invaded. Through this QUX box, your privacy is guaranteed. And then you can add cable at a fraction of your normal prices. But to act today, call and get your box, go through to the website, however you want to do it, either call or go to the website, use code Rudy, and you'll get it for $199 for the box.
Yeah. Now,
So
the thing about this
own the
box is you'll have everything that you can get anywhere else for a fraction of the cost. But more important than that is you'll have total privacy. They don't spy on you and they don't give away your data. They are, their big emphasis is complete privacy, and they have their own system. So you can't be canceled and thrown off the way I have been on YouTube and a couple of other
and
places.
it's got a whole bunch of other features, portals and commerce. But I'm telling you, just for the cable at a fraction of the price, my father doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to surprise him and buy the box and get him a cable subscription because he's on a fixed income. But anyways, I'm going to do it for myself.
And you can get me on it.
And you can get America's Mayor
Get me on
Live.
it.
So Chloe, again, you may have heard me talk
And
about
Dr.
Chloe.
Dr. Maria too.
Yeah. This is a really sad thing, and I don't like a lot of government oversight. Our government is too big, too dysfunctional, but I think there needs to be a law because the medical world has failed our children with sexual transitioning to an opposite sex of what you were born with. And these are hormones that are destructive to your organs, to your longevity, and then through mutilation. This poor woman, Chloe, had testified to a House committee on Thursday, and I knew her story even before Thursday, and I've been trying to get her on Uncovering the Truth. But when she was about 15 years old, she always thought she was in the wrong body. She goes to the psychologist. Right away, the psychologist is saying, oh, you should talk to your medical doctor about hormones. And then quickly they decided to remove her breasts. So, whoops, this is just a tragic thing. That's sorry about that. That's that happened to her. And even though the hormones, she stopped taking them, she wants to detransition. She is a woman. These hormones have really affected her. She's got joint pain. She's got a lot of issues. She looks a little manly. And this story is repeated all the time. And it's disgusting. These young kids don't know what they want. They get these perverted psychologists or doctors or even parents who are misinformed. They're told they'll commit suicide if you don't do it. That's bullcrap, by the way. If a kid is depressed and has gender dysmorphia, it doesn't mean they're going to commit suicide. Work with them, work through it. I'm telling you, they'll grow out of it. Most of the time they grow out of it. I have no problem with Caitlyn Jenner because his whole life he struggled as an adult. He decided to do it after decades of thought, but he was a grown man wanting to be a woman. These are children. This is child abuse.
They don't know what they want.
Child mutilation. And once this has happened, like I said, Chloe's story is not atypical. I'm hearing it more and more. Their breasts have been removed, or just the opposite, that they've had implants or, all kinds of penile surgeries. And it's just really disgusting.
Also,
I can't believe the parents go along with it. Now, sometimes the parents push it, but the medical world, we're supposed to do no harm.
Well, sometimes they don't tell the parents.
Right now, with all these laws, like freaking California,
Some of the left-wing communist states
yeah,
don't tell the
Yep.
parents.
Yep.
And I believe that there are more suicides for people that make the change than people who don't.
I'm not sure about that. I would have to look that
I'm
up, but I'm
pretty sure
telling you,
that's
it's
true.
ruining, those hormones are ruining their bodies.
You certainly don't reduce the number of suicides by making the change. The very high percentage of suicides of people who make the change.
So what happens too is some of these kids are depressed or they have issues, some mental issues, and all of a sudden they want to be a different sex. Well, it's the cool thing to do. You get a lot of attention.
And that isn't their real problem.
You're going to get on MSNBC. You may even have a show about you like I Am Jazz. Now that person too, boy going to girl, now regrets it. Has all kinds of health problems. So we really have to protect these children. They're not even allowed to vote yet. They can't fight in our military. They're children. And we have to protect them. Again, against some of these really odd doctors, the psychology world, I'm embarrassed of what's happened.
Well, there's
there.
really I think two reasons for it.
Well,
Can we guess at them?
money is one.
And what's the other? I
Big-
think
big-
communism.
Communism.
I think the other reason for it is that if you look at Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, you will see that one of the things that they believe will be able to change a country into a communist country is to destroy its morality. No
Yep.
moral base at all.
Yep.
No distinction between sexes.
yeah.
Do away with fathers. Do away with
Like
mothers.
BLM, right? It was founded by Marxist trained leaders who, you don't need a man in the family home. Your child doesn't have to be raised by you. You could put him in a state school at 2 years old.
That was
Well, I was
Stalin. That was
talking.
Stalin's ambition and
Yep.
Hitler's.
I was
Both
talking to a
2 years
woman
ago.
who came to the United States because she hated communism and she's now an American citizen. And she said that's exactly what happened to her. She was put in a state school at 2 years old, didn't really, and it was all about the propaganda. Remember now, we lost our ability to free think. We lost our ability
Ted.
to say a different story than the written story given to you by the corrupt media, the corrupt politicians, and we have to fight back. It is okay to be a free thinker. It is okay to disagree. And being from the medical world, I was thoroughly disappointed during the pandemic when free thinking science was not allowed. You were a bad person. You were spreading misinformation. But we'll get it back. We will, because
Well, all the
people like
misinformation-
America's Mayor Live bringing the truth.
All
to
the
you.
misinformation we were spreading is true.
Yeah, you were
I kept saying I'm not going to take the vaccine because I have natural immunity.
yes,
And
you
it's
did.
stronger than the vaccine.
Yep.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
And
Yes,
I was
it
his
is.
doctor, and I told him it
By
is
a lot.
natural immunity. You don't need the vaccine.
By a lot.
Yep.
Boy, oh boy. The vaccine will cure all of COVID. That's what Biden said. It'll cure COVID. For 4 weeks.
Well, you know,
Some
this,
vaccine, 4 weeks.
the CDC had to change the definition of a vaccine because the mRNA injection didn't
What is
fit.
that? What's
the
the
definition.
vaccine now? You get 4 weeks of immunity.
I forget the language they use.
So you have to pay them another
Yeah.
grand? And then
But even the
another grand?
FDA, approving that vaccine for children,
Without any
when
tests?
children
Without any tests.
had negligible mortality if they got COVID. And we know about the serious side effects of our
Myocarditis?
mRNA, myocarditis, death, stroke, long-term problems. We don't know in children how this is going to
I'll
affect
tell you
them.
another reason I didn't take it. Every medicine you see on television, they give you that big warning thing, like let's say it's a medicine for
Yeah.
arthritis.
Yeah, can cause GI
This is
upset.
the best
And
cure
death.
from arthritis is XYZ medicine. However, here are the side effects. It can make you nauseous. It can give you a headache. It could make you depressed. It could do this. It could that. It could kill you. After you hear that, you never want to buy the medicine. But I don't understand why anybody buys any medicine on television, because every single medicine finishes with it can make you paralyzed or kill you. Now they're advertising the vaccine. No side effects.
Well,
No, the vaccine has no side effects. It's
The
the
other
best
thing-
vaccine. If you take the vaccine, you'll be cured. Look at me. I'm Joe Biden. Joe Biden used to actually be rational before he started taking the vaccine.
okay, that's not true. He was never rational. But
He knew who he was.
can I
before the
just say
vaccine.
one little thing about that, and then I'll leave you for you to finish your show.
Well, they really hate Robert Kennedy Jr., don't they?
I love that guy.
Wow.
At least he's on track when he talks about Fauci.
But what do you guys think of that? He had requested Secret Service, I think, 88 days
Wanna get him
ago,
killed?
and he put a whole paper together on why he needs it from experts. Joe Biden says no. President Trump, I
That's
have
so
a
wrong.
feeling, even for Biden, well, he probably gets it for being former VP. Trump wouldn't have said no.
No, of
Trump
course
would have
not.
said no to his opponents.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have said no to DeSantis. He would not have said no to Chris Christie.
They're very
You- right?
politically motivated against their opponents. But let me just finish this
What,
one
wanna get him
thought.
whacked?
One
That-
thought,
yeah.
please, for the mRNA injection. One of the things that we did that was, and I say we in the healthcare world, even though I stood up against the
You
majority
sure
of them.
did. A lot of guts.
Whenever we give a vaccine or any medication for the first time, especially a vaccine, though, it could be for measles, mumps, rubella, we go over it with the parent or the patient. We give them a sheet and they have to sign for consent. We did not do any informed consent in the industry. You were not told the truth. You were not told about side effects. You deserve to make the decision for yourself. And that was a big part of who we are in healthcare, is teaching.
You were intimidated
In
into taking it.
teaching about what the medication could do. And you got to weigh the risk versus the benefit.
How about the people
That's
who were
all I
fired?
have to say.
How about the people who were fired
Yeah.
for not taking it? My son for governor. He wasn't allowed on stage to debate with the other people because he
wasn't
wouldn't take the
vaccinated.
vaccination. The kid is 36 years old. He's completely healthy. He's an athlete. And his risk of getting it was like 0.000000. His risk from the side effects was greater,
Yeah.
except they lied to him. And how about Biden? This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Even the
Because
CDC
they're
director
spreading-
said that.
They're spreading the
Crazy.
disease. You know something? It was a pandemic of the vaccinated.
It sure
They were
was.
spreading it more than the people who were unvaccinated.
And they were the ones in the hospital, and the ICUs
And
is
more
the
of them
one
were
that
in the
got
hospital.
vaccinated.
because they didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And all they cared about was making money. Please understand, I learned this as a prosecutor. It's unfortunate. Follow the money.
Yeah.
And you'll figure it out. Like, what are the hidden royalties that Fauci has? Why will Fauci not tell us the royalties?
We did a
he's getting?
podcast on the secret royal
Why?
payments.
Does he not tell us the royalties he's
Yeah.
gotten in the last 3 years? You know why. You
The-
know why.
There's a whole problem with that thing because the government
many
did
crooks.
house oversight. They were, anyways, there's a whole big thing about
Well,
that. But
We're
nice
in-
seeing you, Mayor. Always love
We'll
being
see
on
you-
your show.
We'll see you on Sunday.
We'll
on
see you on
Uncovering the
Sunday,
Truth.
uncovering that truth.
WABCRadio.com. You can get it all over the world, including Joel in Jerusalem, who will check in and tell us what's going on there. And then, of course, you can come back here on Monday night, get us on any of your social media. I don't know what you're on right now. If you're on Twitter, you get us on Twitter,
Twitter,
YouTube,
YouTube, Getter, Rumble,
Rumble, Twitch,
Twitch, QUX.
QUX, the new one. Ah.
That's right. So Twitter, YouTube, Getter, Rumble, Twitch, QUX. So, and you never know what we might add next. So be sure to continue
Keep watching. We're spreading like wildfire.
And we have, well, we'll tease it without saying anything, Mayor, but we have one big announcement coming next week, don't we?
We do.
We do. Well, I may be surprising everybody, including my fellow, the mayor and Dr. Maria.
I know. And remember, Sunday, Uncovering the Truth on WABCRadio.com, and Monday, 3:00, WABCRadio.com, and get the app. Then you can get us in France or Germany or, I don't know, Mexico. You want to go to Mexico for? Well, we really enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you, Steve. It was a great addition. Thank you, Dr. Maria. Thank all of you for joining us, and have a great weekend. And God bless America.
Yay!
Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people. not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given